Last week, the United States Supreme Court decided not to hear any cases on same-sex marriage. Now, a lot of people mistakenly think that means that marriage is now legal throughout the United States. No. Effectively, what that means is the United States Supreme Court has punted on this issue. Instead, will rely on lower court rulings, or instead will just allow the states that have either legalized it or made it illegal to continue to have their legal fights. In fact, both recently now Idaho and Nevada have both put stays on their supposed legal same-sex marriage status, which has angered a lot of people in those states that were planning to get married shortly after that court ruling in order to have another court look at it. This thing is still tied up in the legal process. Frankly, I think what the United States Supreme Court did in this issue was, well, as I mentioned, punt earlier, but decided not to make a ruling. And not making a ruling, in effect, in some people's mind, is endorsing something, but it is not. Now, it is true. There are about 20 states now in the Union that do recognize same-sex marriage, Minnesota being one of them. And among these 20 states, they do represent the vast majority, I think something like 60 or 65% of the United States population living within those states. So the majority of these states are covered. I find it very interesting, though, that the Supreme Court took really what was a cowardly stance on this issue when just in 2013, this exact same court with these exact same justices felt necessary to issue a 5-4 ruling striking down DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, in June of 2013, which quite frankly opened the floodgates to the federal recognition of same-sex marriage, which is what many pro-same-sex marriage groups and couples have been pushing for. This continues to be an evolving debate. Frankly, personally, I think it's probably going to inevitably roll into most states are going to recognize same-sex marriage in one form or another because of the June 2013 Defense of Marriage Act by the Supreme Court. I think is going to put a lot of pressure on them, plus just the trends that have transpired over the last few years. I mentioned it before, 25 years ago, whoever thought that same-sex marriage would be legal? And what does legalizing same-sex marriage really mean for us as a society? To me, I do believe it in some way does cheapen, lessen, or destroy the actual act of marriage between a man and a woman, whose number one job, in my opinion, was to procreate children for the next society and continue a culture. And as much as a same-sex married couple loves each other, and I do not deny their love for each other and their feelings, etc., there is no physical way they can keep a species going. There is no physical reason or cultural reason other than personal fulfillment and enjoyment that having a same-sex relationship or marriage really does for society. And that is why we always had tax breaks for married couples. That is why we've always encouraged the two-parent household. It is seen as, I think, the best way to raise a child sociologically. But I digress. We changed as a society. I don't know if it's necessarily changed for the better. Regardless, we spent an awful lot of time over the last 10 years, and special interest groups have spent an awful lot of money over the last 10 years ramming this down the throat of the American people, and I do believe with the Hollywood culture and the mainstream media has done their best job to ram this down the throat of the American people in order to change their minds. But we're talking about something that affects 5% or less of the American population. The only thing that I think would be encouraging of same-sex marriage was federally legalized or federally outlawed one way or the other by the Supreme Court. It would hopefully bring this whole conversation to an end. Because personally, I do feel we have a whole lot of other issues that are far more important in this country besides what two people are doing in a bedroom.